This is the BBC third programme. When the third programme began 5 years ago, on the 29th of September 1946, we opened with a piece called How to Listen by Stephen Potter and Joyce Grenfell, which contained a summary of recent broadcasting. To mark our 5th anniversary, we asked the two authors concerned to resume their researches, with special reference to the broadcasting on all wavelengths of good and fairly good programmes of the last 3 months. Here is the result. How to broadcast, demonstrated by distinguished members of the How Repertory Company. How to broadcast.
These are the latest BBC figures, the figures of the last quarter. This is the breakdown. Just for the 3 home wavelengths, of course. Revenue expenditure, 1,522,211. Salaries for programme staff, 384,000 odd. Ditto for artists and speakers, 472,321. Cold current fluxion, that's something to do with electricity, 36-something. Output power of all transmitters, 1,634,348 watts. Individual C and D programs, 3,407, it says. 3,000. Now then, I wonder, Mr. Pantel, how much of that you've managed to get. I represent listener research. We've met before. I say, I wonder...
Not 3,000.
No, of course not.
As you know, I'm a very irregular listener.
Yes, but you have listened, I take it.
Oh, certainly. Why?
Well, I've told you that you're a perfect example of listener type B2, as we call it.
B2? Is that fairly good, I mean?
Not good or bad, just a type. The point is your reactions will be valuable. You form some conclusions, some preferences.
Well, in the last quarter... Well, there's been some very good music, of course. Oh, yes, and there's one variety programme. Very funny, really. That comedian who, you know, talks, quite first class. And poetry, of course.
Good, good. But what do you remember?
Remember? Well, what do I remember? It's all such a muddle.
Well, let me help you. I mean, how about your morning listening? Have you...
No. Well, yes, I mean, sort of chancing. Once I tried very early in the morning indeed, catch the boat train, you know. Around about 7 it was, in mid-August. Freezing. I switched on. Oh, dear, oh, dear. And, you know, there's really quite a long weather report about that time. It goes on for minutes.
There are warnings of west or southwest gales for the sea areas South Shannon, Fastnet, Lundy. A deep depression west of Scotland is moving slowly southeast, and troughs of low pressure are crossing the British Isles from the southwest. In all districts, weather will be mainly cloudy and dull.
Oh, dear. You know, I almost preferred that morning radio doctor. You know, I almost missed him.
May even be due to taking medicines to cure it, to taking laxatives as a routine. Please don't whip your bowel each day into a chronic frenzy of irritable activity.
And then, later, when you weren't quite sure whether you wanted any breakfast or not, you heard something like this.
Take an egg cup full of treacle. Remove the sardines from the oil.
Ugh. And then, almost immediately after, that woman. Do you remember?
I love you. I love you. I love you. Indeed I do.
You know, I almost missed them.
Ah, they were the giants of radio. But we are talking about radio now.
Yes, of course, in the morning. Well, it did strike me when I switched on once or twice. Everybody seemed to be most tremendously young. There was something called, what was it? Hark to Auntie. For the not quite 3-year-olds, I seem to remember.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Once there was a big red bus, and what it liked best was a really wet day, because then it could go through the puddles, splish, splosh, splush, splash. And the big red bus liked doing that very much.
But look, before we start, you do realise that you're listener type B2, and this programme is aimed definitely at type CX4.
Well, you asked me my impression.
The bus conductor gave him a ticket and punched a little hole in it. Bing! Like that. Bing! And the big red bus went through a very good puddle. Splish, splash, splush.
Yeah, well, I only mean that everything is tremendously young.
Accent on youth.
Yeah. And then about 11:20.
Ah, that would be broadcasts to schools.
I think it was How Things Began, number 42. Fossils. How did it go?
I say, Mr. Partridge, that does look interesting, doesn't it, Nellie?
Ooh, I wonder what it is.
If you stop calling me Mr. Partridge and call me Uncle Arthur, I might tell you. It's a fossil. F-O-S-S-I-L.
Oh, I say, I think I know what a fossil is.
Good. And you see this one like a great big enormous woodlouse?
Oh, yes, it's a trilobite, isn't it?
Good, Tim. I expect you've seen an example in your school museum. That's a trilobite, Nellie. T-R-I-L-O-B-I-T-E. And you know how it came there, Tim?
Oh, yes. I think that millions and millions of years ago, it fell to the bottom of the sea. Oh, and then millions of years later, tons and tons of mud fell on it. Then lots more mud, and it got squashed. Then lots and lots more mud, and then some more mud.
Quite right, Tim.
Mud.
Oh, but you do realise that these programmes for children are some of the best things in broadcasting.
Well, if you will allow me to carry on my morning listening. Then there was something rather surprising that wasn't exactly for children and didn't really belong to the morning.
One of the morning repeats?
Pardon? Oh, no doubt. It startled me, rather.
Stop! Stop! Once more we bring to an end the traffic's roar, the hum of the great city, to bring to you the life of the people as it is today.
And how long were you a choir boy, Mr. Pilfork? 3 years?
2 years and 6 months.
Oh, yes. And you say that although you're 18 years old...
18 and a half.
18 and a half, your voice is not broken yet.
On the contrary.
Oh?
Well, when I thought my voice was breaking, my employer in Gills and Sandpit said, I believe you could sing it still, and I found I could.
Well, that really is quite extraordinary, Mr. Pilfork. You mean to say that, in fact, your singing voice had not broken?
That is right.
Well, then, Mr. Pilfork, perhaps... And remember, all you who can hear me above the roar of traffic's hum, that Mr. Pilfork is 18 and a half years old. Perhaps you could sing to us, Mr. Pilfork.
Ooh, for the wings, for the wings of a dove.
Carry on, London.
You see what I mean about the young, how they do keep coming in? And there was something rather youthful about that awfully good kind of play I kept coming across. In fact, it never seems to stop. Quite sad things kept happening. Mrs. Job's Journal, is it called? But everybody in it seemed to say quite ordinary things in an unordinary tone of voice. Rather like children acting.
Aha. Give us this day our daily cereal.
I was expecting Gladys and George to come in for supper, because Gladys had been skating with Mr. Carmichael, and Edna was hoping for a new job. Charlie and Ethel were coming in too, and I couldn't think what to give them that was different. What shall I give them for supper, Mrs. Kettle?
I don't know, I'm sure. Nice piece of hake's always nice, I always say.
Yes, I suppose it is. Of course, we could have the meat ration, but that would mean doing without on Sunday.
Well, I like that.
Oh, Joe, you did make me jump.
Sorry, Elsie, dear, but I will not eat scrag end of mutton. No, not even for you. I'll desert you first.
Oh, Joe.
The things you say, Doctor.
We could have resells, only Fred doesn't like them. And Mother ate the last of the meatloaf when Sheila came.
Mum, I'm off to change the library books. Have you got your shopping list ready? Oh, hello, Mrs. Kettle.
Hello, Mr. Jack. You don't half look lovely in your new pullover. Is that the one Mrs. Maltis give you?
Well, as a matter of fact, it is.
I didn't know you were seeing Mrs. Motis anymore, Jack.
I ran into her accidentally, and she gave me this pullover. Oh, where's the shopping list, Mama? I must be going.
Here you are, dear.
Ever so moody these days, isn't he, Mr. Jack? When I seen him come out of the cave with Mrs. Maltis yesterday, I thought, oh, dear.
Yesterday? I thought he was playing cricket with Vernon yesterday.
Now, Mr. Pantel, from these examples you seem to remember, or half remember, you consider that morning listening is never sufficiently adult?
Oh, heavens no, I wouldn't say never. Not on Sundays, for instance. Heavens no. I never heard anything so adult in my life. Not so early in the morning, anyhow. It starts about 12 o'clock, believe me. And everybody criticizes everything.
Do you mean the critics?
I don't know about that, but they certainly criticize. They were moderately nice about everything up to a point. And I'm bound to say that nobody could be fairer. I remember they were discussing a television program.
And the idea of the play, I suppose, is that the idea of Last Emperor was that Henry Ford is really the modern incarnation of the God figure, the man who does. The author put a lot of work into it, I think. He tells a very simple story in very plain verse, perhaps a little too plain. It is a perfectly honest affair. I wonder what you think.
But surely...
Surely, it was quite telling, wasn't it? But I did feel that one became a little confused between fantasy and realism.
Well, I don't...
No, the two modes were mixed. I was in two minds about the author's intention.
But why does the author's intention matter?
Oh, no, of course it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the least.
No, but Charlie, what did you think about it, Burley?
Well, I thought the whole thing was so awful that I can hardly talk about it. But roughly speaking, when you dress up Napoleon in a monk's coat carrying a wooden cross with a spotlight on his head, well, the whole thing becomes to me so completely phony and tasteless, and even suggests an atmosphere of the passing of the third floor back, which I'm afraid I personally find utterly distasteful.
Well,
I suppose, in a way, this program is aimed at what you might call the home service audience.
Is there such a thing as the home service audience?
I'm rather afraid there is.
Of course, I'm bound to say that it's the first television drama or fantasy or whatever it is that I've ever...
I suppose it was because I'd never seen the thing they were talking about that I found the critics rather depressing. I usually like it rather better when they get on to pictures and painting.
This exhibition of sea pictures by Sam Wheeler at the Dunhill Gallery, it would be quite wrong to dismiss these really very jolly pictures of jetties and fishing nets as coloured postcards. Take numbers 17 to 20. They're in his yellow lifebelt period, and they're not just pictures of lifebelts. They definitely have a kind of warmth which comes from the people. It rises spontaneously from the people, and it's good.
Phony.
That statement must be substantiated.
Well, the real folk art of today comes from things like rocking horses and advertisements on cigarette cards.
Oh,
they're
splendid.
They're absolutely splendid.
You see, they didn't even like Mr. Wheeler very much. It's not very positive, is it?
Oh, but they're all quite positive about folk art. Art by the people. We always have one of those in. In fact, we do it quite often in the third program.
Oh, splendid.
Folk songs from America.
Here is a song from the swamp districts of Tennessee. Dan Miller was a notorious character who killed his wife and his mother and his old dog, Dun. Thrush Kelvinside is going to sing it for you.
Hang him high from a butternut tree, old Dan Miller from the wild prairie. He shot his wife and he killed her dead, and he buried her deep beneath the pine tree shade. He loved his mother and his old dog Dun, and he killed them all with his little old gun. Hang him high from a butternut tree, old Dan Miller from the wild prairie.
the people, didn't you think?
Rather. Oh, and that reminds me. I have heard quite a lot of bits of art for the people. I mean, education.
Education. But not too obviously, I hope, Mr. Pantel. You mean afternoon programs?
Oh, yes, we're well into the afternoon now. There was one series, what was it called, which was about architecture and music, and it was called...
Don't be afraid of it. Yes, we're rather proud of that one. Even the people can understand art.
Well, I think Don't Be Afraid of It number 14 was about poetry, and the woman was saying that poetry was quite all right.
You've got to think of it as rhythm. The quality of mercy is not strained. Tum, 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 tum. Doesn't it suggest you a rather strange, exciting sort of rhythm? Doesn't it make you want to... I think it does. It makes you want to dance. Let's take Coleridge's Christabel. But don't think of Christabel as a classic. Don't, whatever you do, think of Coleridge as Coleridge, but just that exciting and wonderful rhythm. 'Tis the middle of night by the castle clock, pong, pong, pong. You see, you feel the rhythm of dancing. It's like when you're dancing with your boyfriend. 'Tis the middle of night by the castle clock, 1, 2, reverse, slide. And the owl has awakened the crowing cock, 1, 2, reverse, slide. 2, whit, 2, 1, 2, reverse, slide.
Of course, I love that. And I very much liked Don't Be Afraid number 34. That was about a Beethoven sonata.
Beethoven, the Waldstein Sonata. That sounds very terrible, doesn't it? Opus 53. Now, don't worry about opus. Maybe he liked to number his works. Why not? In C major. Well, forget that altogether. But let us think that Beethoven had a friend. He was called Waldstein. And Beethoven wanted to write this piece of music for this friend, as you might want to speak to Ted or Johnny. Ring up Ted or Johnny, perhaps, and then have something to say. At the beginning of the sonata, Beethoven wants to speak. Won't his friend Waldstein come? He wishes to get in touch. The ringing of the phone bell, it might be, with a question mark at the end. And then he pleads. In these chords you can hear he pleads. Won't Waldstein come? Oh, Mr. Waldstein. Oh, Mr. Waldstein. Oh, Mr. Waldstein. Oh, Mr. Waldstein. Come to the phone.
You know, you haven't remembered that quite right, Mr. Pantel. I seriously think some of our programs about music are the most interesting we have. And why does education get on your nerves, sir?
Oh, I agree. And I like education. But I don't like it too much disguised. Now, could you explain this, please? If it's the tercentenary of London Bridge or an anniversary of Monmouth's Rebellion, why not simply tell us the historical point and leave it at that? Why give us a lot of rather peculiar dialogue with music sandwiched in between? And why call it...
They blazed the path to freedom, number 27.
Those numbers.
The Battle of Taunton Moor. You, serving man, what's o'clock?
Here have I been scratching out my night in a flea bed.
Off they go.
The old England has been destroyed, and there is none to replace it. What brings you here?
It's faith in the Lord.
Richard! William! This is the Duke.
My lord, we will hold your secrecy safe.
But, my lord, you mince along too delicate for secrecy. You want an honest sowherd's gait.
I'm as hungry as such.
'Tis humble fare, your grace. Just a mess of milk and eggs and sugar and cream, cousin to these parts.
Delightful, isn't it? I like information, even when it's given us before concerts by those special people who tell you about what the program's going to be.
Ah, continuity.
I beg your pardon?
Yes, that's continuity.
The first part of the concert from the Usher Hall will begin in 2.5 minutes' time. In the first item, Bruder's Concerto in E major, the second movement is called by Bruder A Calm Sea and a Prosperous Voyage. It depicts a calm sea and a prosperous voyage.
We are taking you over to the Usher Hall, where we're now to hear the Concerto in E major by Bruder, played by Trevor Peabody. From the Usher Hall, Edinburgh.
Et maintenant, nous allons entendre le concerto en mi majeur de Bruder, exécuté par Trevor Peabody de la Usher Hall, Edinburgh.
In extra captis de cabarastica moriscamana caduta, das Bruder, astapismo Trevor Peabody, das mismo Usher Hall, Edinburgh.
The leader of the orchestra has just come in, Leader Polbeard. At the moment, there is a small readjustment of the seats.
And you might be interested to know that C.P. Dixon, the leader of the basses, has been married today. Here comes Sir Malcolm.
And they do it after the concert as well.
Those of you who have just heard Trevor Peabody play may like to know that another player of this well-loved concerto, Wilson Roderick, was also a keen cricketer, and perhaps after all the two arts are not so very far apart. Will listeners interested in sport remember that we are broadcasting the finals of the Table Tennis Championship tomorrow at 3 and again at 6:30.
Yes, I do see what you mean. Perhaps there is a bit too much information. Too many question and answer teams, perhaps.
Answering questions? Oh, no, that's not information at all. That's character. At any rate, it is in, what's the name of the thing? We Beg to Be Different.
You mean it's not the answers in We Beg to Be Different, it's the answerers who are important.
Yes. Have you noticed that when this new team get to work on them, all the questions seem the same? They're usually about life, with a rather medium-sized ale, I should say. They start...
L.B.W. of Nottingham writes, do you believe that immodesty is action out of place, and are men more modest than women?
Modesty is such a strange word. Could we say what we mean by it a little?
Modest is modesty, and I suggest we call it modesty.
Well, I don't know. I'm very old-fashioned. Hasn't modesty been called the becoming virtue? I think we could all do with a little modesty today.
Oh, do you? I'm all for immodesty. Well, just a touch. It's so important. If everybody was modest in paintings and decoration, for instance, wouldn't we all be rather up a gum tree? Don't you love that immodest little statue of a nymph at the bottom of Berkeley Square? It's sweet. The one by Badbeck. Very late Regency.
Well, I'm probably very old-fashioned, but I saw some quite young girls with bare backs at 11 o'clock in the morning walking in Kew Gardens. They had bare, freckled backs. And I thought it very unattractive because it was out of place. Now, bare legs...
How lovely. And freckles.
You were asked to discuss immodesty is action out of place.
Rubbish.
Oh, come, that's rather sweeping.
Oh, it's an absurd thing for Corton Bold or whoever it is to ask us to discuss.
I expect you know that it is a line from Dashwood Faulkner's play, The Flame of Acquiescence. I played the part of Diana. The part was actually written for me. In the context, the line makes perfect sense. Diana was an intensely attractive woman in her character, with a fine brain, though heaven knows I haven't much of a brain.
And so on. You know, I long for a little fact, a little objectivity, something more straightforward, even just pure description.
Objective fact and pure description? Then you must try our OBs, our Outside Broadcasting Recording Department. Scenes described on the spot. Actuality, objectivity.
This is the BBC Home Service bringing you to London. In the heart of a busy London suburb, we bring you with recording gear and commentators through a street deep imbued with tradition and commonplace. The spine of London, which is the hub of a thriving borough, the Balham High Road. Over then to John Vaughan Dimbleby and the Balham High Road. Over to you, John Vaughan.
This is me, John Vaughan Dimbleby, and we're very happy here on board this tram. One of the last trams to run, perhaps, on this road of romance and fiction. We're moving up now by Clapham South Underground Station to the Balham High Road. 10 twisting furlongs of it. Cinemas elbowing against glass-fronted shops. The windows of the shops about the size of 10 large packing cases in area. By the way, I see this tram is number B36241. Now, how did it come to be that number, Driver Akehurst?
It's the number in the registration book. The next number to B36240.
The next to that one, is it? Well, here's our little tram, then, bravely bearing its registration number like a flag. Now, how far away is Big Ben now? About 7 miles, do you think?
About 6.5.
Thank you, Joe. Again, you get the sense of traffic, of moving objects, of lights now moving, now stopped. Yes, the whole romance of SW12 is contained in this vast street. Now you see that great bus coming ahead. We'll wave to the driver as he passes us. No, he didn't wave back, but he gave us a friendly honk, maybe a welcome. For buses are the keynote of this teeming thoroughfare. So forward now to join Leonard Hodgson at the old cable repairing depot by Morella Gardens.
Yes, this is where the cables, the underground cables of the tramways, are repaired for this district. And I can say that it's perfectly amazing to see the cables coming in shattered and worn, and the new cables being taken out completely repaired, and in fairly good order, I guess, don't they, Mr. Bloxton? And how many cables do you say you get through in a year? 600. That's a very remarkable figure.
60.
Fair enough, Mr. Bloxton. A very fine target, too. No less than 60 cables. You've got to imagine the rubber welding stoves, as they're called, looking rather like vast cactuses, or waste paper baskets turned the wrong way up. Over to you, then, John Vaughan Dimbleby.
Thank you, Lennon. Well, here I am, John Vaughan Dimbleby, once more in our trusty tram. Now, right ahead of us is the entrance to the tunnel over which the Southern Electric trains flash. In olden times, the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway. Underneath that old entrance, which can scarcely have been touched since Kipling's day, steam engines once bore their message. There is a muddy gutter over which Raleigh might have laid his cloak. You remember Poynter's famous painting. Now, trains leave this station bearing Balham's message to London and the big terminus thronged with thriving workers. These lads, standing outside that pub, it must be 30 years old, stand where their fathers stood before them. Let's hail them as we go by. And now, as we pass under the bridge, let's look at the way ahead. Those points of light like a frieze on a willow pattern plate are the lights of Tooting Beck Road. Over to you then, Tooting, and goodbye to Balham and all its romance. A last wave then to Balham. Give them a clang, Skipper. And among the friendly cheers of the departing Balhamers, we say good night to you too, listeners, and goodbye, alas, to our trusty B36241.
Of course, it's awfully English.
Yes, isn't it?
We couldn't have something a little less English and a little bit gayer, could we?
Well, of course, the variety department provides the gaiety, and just recently it's gone quite foreign. In fact, I think they've discovered France.
Our next guest in Fits and Starts will be introduced to you by our old friend Bill Swinston, if I can get him out of the bass drum. Bill! Hey, Bill, come over here!
Oh, me? I'm far from fit.
You'll feel all right when I tell you who our next guest is. Now, picture the Eiffel Tower.
Aye.
Picture a gay little cafe on the corner.
Aye, I feel better already. I'm feeling fit.
Here, the essence of that lovely city of laughter is the chicest little Parisienne of them all.
Oh, la la, lead me to her, lead me to her.
Okay. Bill, this is Colette Mignon. Colette, this is Bill.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, Colette. Where?
Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, ouer? What does it mean, ouer, Bill?
Well, it means why couldn't I keep my big boots shut? Well, it means you're a bit of all right, Colette, and per de okay.
I think you are ouer too, Bill.
Where I'm far from fit.
Very funny. And I especially notice it, because variety isn't always very funny. Sometimes even the comedians seem to think so.
I was walking along the street just now, and I saw a man I know. His name was Smithers Pomfret, and he was carrying a zither. Well, he was the third man I'd seen with a zither in a week. Oh, well, that goes better with film fans. He said, how about a quick cuppa? So, of course, I said, suits me to a T. Well, that's what it says in the script. No wonder the script writers are starving. Well, where was it? Oh, yes. I was having a cup of tea with a sailor.
Well, of course, we can always try the third program.
Very good idea. Provided, of course, that it's a good night.
Oh, but the third program's always good. That's the point.
Well, yes, of course, it's frightfully good. The only thing is that it just so happens that for me, it is sometimes a little bit difficult to get.
Why, it's as clear as a bell at Cape Wrath.
But at 14 Danescourt Gardens... Oh, Lord, I'll try turning the knob again. Hello. Where are we now?
Hello, folks. Well, here I am again, tucked up cosily in this little old BBC top-floor studio, with the wax stacked at my elbow. All the platters that matter for half an hour of fun. Yes, Pussy, I said fun. Well, that's just your opinion, Puss. Now, this first one is one of your own very special personal favorites. How's about a new label from Need I Must I Tell You? Yes, it's our old friend, the Choo-Choo Girl.
Choo-choo on a Tuesday night, choo-choo on a Tuesday night, choo-choo on a Monday night, on a Monday or a Tuesday night.
If you were stranded on a desert island with a portable gramophone...
Oh, where are we now? Am I really suggest that I should take that disc to a desert island?
And an unlimited supply of needles, what 8 gramophone records would you take with you? Let us hear the choice of an actress.
I would like to have one particular piece of music that has always meant a great deal to me because of its inspiring melody and uplifting magic. When I first heard it, I couldn't speak for nearly an hour.
If you had to take 10 books with you to prison, why would you not choose Pilgrim's Progress?
Wait a minute.
If you were alone on the Eiffel Tower, which 10 favorite pictures would you bring with you?
I shall go mad. Wait a minute. What's this? I think I got America.
But tell me, Fred, why have you got such big bags under the eyes, darling?
You've got the big broadcast.
Why have I got such big bags under my eyes? My war work.
Which war, Fred?
Yes, that's awfully good. But aren't they being beastly to each other?
Oh, they're not always beastly. Just you wait till the finish.
And now... Before we say goodbye, darlings, can I read you something which I've always wanted to read since I landed on those white cliffs of yours? It's something you all know and love. Old England's like a mighty ship a-riding on the sea. Her rigging's torn, her funnel's gone. Though battered she may be, she's England. She's just England. And that's all the world to me. And now, from all of us,
bless you,
and bless you, and bless you, and bless.
Good night, my dears.
Good night, my sweetheart.
Good night, my darlings.
Good night, our darlings.
Dead on time. Not bad going.
Yeah.
Well, good night, Geoffrey.
Night. Night, Hopper.
Good night, Geoffrey.
Good night. Betty, are you going to King's Road?
How to Broadcast was written by Joyce Grenfell and Stephen Potter and demonstrated by Joyce Grenfell, Betty Hardy, Ronald Simpson, Derek Guyler, Geoffrey Wincott, Alan Reed, Elvin Brooke-Jones, Carlton Hobbs, Roy Plumley. The production was by Stephen Potter.